How to buy your first archery kit online in 2 easy steps. 1. Go to Amazon and buy a ceramic sage. 2. Go on eBay and buy fiberglass arrows. Surely it can't be that easy. Well, actually it can be, but there are several traps you can fall into if you jump straight into archery like this. Depending on your mileage, this can either be a surprisingly simple way to get into archery or the worst way you can possibly go at it. The thing of archery is that it's actually really easy and really cheap to get into, especially if you're looking at budget priced products. There are many budget brands out there which are specifically marketed towards the inexperienced impulse buyer, and casual shoppers typically don't look for archery stores. Instead, they go for sites like Amazon and eBay. Because of this shopping habit, numerous sellers flood the market with the cheapest priced equipment that a new archer needs. This isn't actually a bad thing. Many people start off with simple recurve bows like the PAC Snake or something a bit fancier like the ceramic sage. And there's a lot of appeal to a bow like the ceramic sage. It looks nice, it functions well, and it's really affordable. On the compound side, you often come across brand names like Atanga and Apex, which provide simple, functioning bows for a very low price. For the most part, I'm not going to disparage these bows, but with some exceptions, you get what you pay for. Getting cheap bows will offer a more limited experience, and this may cloud your initial impression of archery. The problem is when you start buying cheap arrows. The common mentality is to find the cheapest possible arrows for 2 reasons. Firstly, you don't invest as much into the sport just in case you don't like it, so it's not as big a loss. Secondly, you know you'll break arrows, you know you'll lose arrows, so you're tempted to buy cheap arrows and you replace your arrows with cheaper arrows. This is problematic because arrows have to be matched for your bow. When you go on eBay and you buy a set of 20 cheap fiberglass arrows, what you're buying is a generic shaft that is not rated specifically for your bow. While this isn't dangerous, in all likelihood, the arrows will not fly very well. Most generic arrows are far too stiff for a typical recurve bow, although with some compound bows, you're probably more likely to handle them a bit better. If your arrow is not spined correctly for your bow, you will be frustrated when you realize that your arrows flop around as if you're shooting a crooked stick. The right way to purchase arrows is to look up arrow selection charts. You need to know your draw length, your draw weight, and usually the weight of the point. This gives you a spine rating, which you can then use to match up with the correct arrow shaft for your bow. Once you know what you're looking for, this gives you a much better match to your bow, and believe me, you will notice a huge difference when you're shooting. Also, consider buying from archery stores rather than Amazon or eBay. Archery stores not only have the experience in dealing with new archers and setting up equipment, they have the parts you need. They will have numerous arrow shafts of all the spine ratings, and if they don't have it, they can order it in. It's much better and easier if you go through archery stores and suppliers instead of blindly buying cheap parts and arrows. I've noted several times in the past that archery stores typically don't stock the brands that you find as budget buyers online. Additionally, if you buy a budget compound bow, it's very likely that it's not set up to be shot. Many compound packages come with a finger tab and no knocking point. Most compound shooters will use a release aid, so you need to put a D-loop on, you need to buy a release aid, and so on. You need to make sure the cams are synchronized, you need to get the draw length set just for you, and so on. Now, if you have no archery experience and you did a blind buy, you're probably going to have to take it to a pro shop anyway to get it set up. This is one of the frustrations that clubs go through, and many clubs release memos and buying guides that, to put bluntly, tell people not to buy bows until they have consulted with the club. Now, this isn't because clubs are elitist and want to dictate what you buy, it's because so many people buy the wrong equipment. One of our recent visitors bought a 70-pound compound bow. That is way too strong, especially for a first timer. Even though it's a compound, it's just way too heavy for someone who's never done archery before. Additionally, it is against the rules for a target club to allow a 60-pound compound or above. Now, since he had no experience, he was advised to learn on a recurve bow first, so he went out and bought this beautiful traditional bow, but it was 50 pounds, which is still very heavy for a recurve. It's not something you can learn with. I felt bad telling him that he should be learning on 20-pound club bows. But look, clubs and instructors know that downward spiral. Beginners with overpowered bows tend to be overconfident. They risk injury, they find it very hard to hold the bow's draw weight, and they generally don't shoot for long before getting really tired. These factors make it nearly impossible for them to learn how to shoot properly. What you then have is effectively a bow or several bows that you can't actually use. The most common piece of advice given is to try archery at a club first. Now, I know a lot of people don't have access to a club. However, please bear in mind that archery isn't just something you can pick up and do right away. It's not a hard sport to get into, but it does involve fine motor skills, proper technique, and proper form. The ultimate trap with impulse buys is that it's very hard to unlearn bad habits with bad equipment. A lot of people who get into archery on a whim and buy the budget bows will spend hours, weeks, months of shooting, but they have no training and have alarmingly dangerous techniques sometimes. There are people I've come across who are considered to be accidents waiting to happen. And it's usually the compound shooters who are most at risk. This is because recurve beginners usually know their limits, but compound beginners are often taken away by the power and precision of their bow. Just the other day, I came across someone who was using our club targets, and apparently he'd been there for 8 months, and it's the first time we've seen him. He was a pretty decent bloke, unlike most others who abuse our club grounds. But as with a lot of beginners, he had no idea what he was doing, and he was never taught. So he was a compound shooter. At first shot, we knew exactly what his level was. He had all the bad habits of a shooter who's never been trained. So he had a very high, very tense shoulder. He was hunched over, trying to get his head on the peep sight. He had a death grip on the bow. It looked disastrous. I'm surprised he hasn't been injured yet. Now, in good faith, I tried to show him better form, but I'll tell you this. I've never taught someone who had so much tension in their body. No matter what I tried, I could not get him to relax his shoulder. Every time I pulled the bow back, it was always up, it was always forward, and he just could not move that shoulder. Even putting a bit of pressure on the shoulder to help him relax it, it was like pushing on concrete. Now, this is someone who's been shooting like this for nearly a year. It's obviously, we've known to show him, it's really, really hard to unlearn these habits. In the end, what you do with your archery is up to you. But there are a few tips for those who are thinking about the independent online pathway. Do your research. Ask around. Go to archery clubs, go to online archery forums, look at reviews. At least get an idea of what a beginner will be comfortable in using and enjoying. You'll find there are a few bows that many beginners are happy to choose from. At the very least, don't buy blind. Look for something that is specific for your needs. Invest in some decent arrows that are matched for your bow instead of getting dozens of cheap Chinese fiberglass arrows. Buy your equipment from archery stores instead of Amazon or eBay. If you don't buy from an archery store, you're pretty much on your own. You can bring your equipment to a store and get it set up, but don't assume that the equipment you buy is in proper shooting condition. Do make an effort to learn how to shoot. Whether it's through a club or coach or video tutorials online, don't assume that you can just pick up a bow and pull it back. Not only will your archery experience be unfulfilling, you risk injuries that can end your interest in archery. I'm not saying this because I'm an elitist snob. So many people with no training and no experience turn up with brand new budget bows and then don't come back and never use it. It doesn't feel nice when we have to tell people to put their brand new bow away because they can't use it. Seriously, we get people who have never done archery before turn up for the first time with their Apex compound bow, still in the plastic wrapping, and they don't even know what to ask us. They don't know why they bought the bow. The biggest mistake is to assume that you need a bow to experience archery, and you don't. You can save the money and experience archery through a club by using their come and try program, the beginner program, whatever they call it, for a fraction of the price of a bow. I occasionally get emails from agencies that deal with refugees and asylum seekers, and I get this really heart-wrenching story about how this family fled their country. They've moved to Australia. They're trying to find work and find income, and their child goes to school. The child goes to a school camp. They try archery there. They really enjoy it. So the parents buy them a bow, and now the agency is trying to find a place for them to get a discount membership and to be part of the team. And it's I don't want to say no, but they didn't have to buy the bow. That's the worst thing. They could have just saved the money. They could have gone to a club first and said, look, my child likes archery. What can I do? We would say, spend $20 on a come and try session and you can have all the fun you would have wanted. You didn't have to spend hundreds of dollars on bow equipment. Whatever the case, buy wisely and shoot safely. This is New Sensei. Hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you next time.